Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for The Deadly Years, which is episode 11 of season 2 of Star Trek The Original Series. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek The Original Series, one episode at a time. In this video, I cover the TOS episode, The Deadly Years. So The Deadly Years is the episode in which, while investigating a planet where people who under the age of 30 apparently caught a disease that made them grow very old very quickly, and they died of old age. Kirk and the away team also catch this disease. They all start to grow old and die, and a Commodore on board strives to relieve Kirk of his command, and then goes off into the Romulan neutral zone and almost gets the ship destroyed, but thankfully McCoy's able to find a cure in the nick of time, and Kirk comes back and saves the Enterprise and everything as well. So, so I think I used to like this episode a bit when I was younger, because it's one of those high concept episodes, like the crew grows old, the crew grows young, the crew gets smaller, the crew gets drunker, those kind of episodes like that. And those were a lot around in cartoons. And so I was kind of used to them. So especially when I was watching this, I was like 11, 12 years old. So I was kind of used to that kind of thing. And I was more attracted to it a bit. But as I got older, I started to realize this episode is not so good. And I think it wasn't until just now, today, when I watched this episode, that I realized that this is actually a really bad episode. Not only is it not that good, it's actually actively bad, because I mean it has the high concept of the crew grows old, but it doesn't really do anything with it. The whole subplot with the Commodore is a big ball of nonsense, just there to add extra tension. They throw in a romance with someone Kirk had, an old flame that Kirk reignites with, which, by the way, this is number 4. I'm keeping count. During my rewatch, we had 3 in season 1, and this is the first one in season 2, so this is number 4. But anyway, so we have that, and then, which is very cliche, and as I said, done before, and kind of adds nothing new. And then we have the plot of Kirk being relieved of command, which is really inconsequential to anything, and honestly a waste of time. And I think Kirk is massively out of character in this episode, and is done to artificially create melodrama. And the disease itself, with them growing old, while maybe being an interesting concept, as I said, they do nothing with it. And as one of my patrons would point out in one of the Patreon comments I'll read at the end of the video, the way that they portray, Kirk and others as they grow old is not what growing old is like. That's not what it means. Just because you get old doesn't mean you automatically forget everything and be like, "What's that you say, sonny?" Like, it's the cliche stereotypes. So overall, this is an actively bad episode. Now let me delve more into the Commodore subplot first, because this was the dumbest thing. And I've also always pointed this out in several episodes. Well, first of all, when he goes to Spock and he's like, "You should take command," Spock's like, "No, I'm not in any ability. Even though I'm a Vulcan, it's not affecting me as much." Which he's being kind of modest here, because the Commodore actually points out something accurate. He says, "Well, if you're not capable of being command, then absolutely that means Captain Kirk most certainly isn't," which is actually correct. But Spock should have been like, "Oh, fine, I'll take command." Even after they did the hearing, and Commodore, what's-his-face, wants to put Spock in command, he's like, "No, I have the disease, I can't do it." That's plot contrivance. They're doing that on purpose. And there's several plot contrivances they're doing to have this Commodore, who apparently is just administrative and has zero command training or capabilities, being in command of the Enterprise. And there's 2 major contrivances that actually don't make sense to put him in command so they could go to the Romulan neutral zone and almost get the ship destroyed. The first contrivance is this, with Spock saying, "No, I'm in no condition," which he should have realized even in his condition, he's still in much better shape to command the Enterprise than this fuckhead. But, then the plot wouldn't happen if that happened. And the second contrivance is the one I've talked about a lot in my other previous reviews as I've been going through. I've mentioned this episode, is that Sulu should have taken command, because the Commodore even says, when they point out that he has no experience whatsoever commanding a starship, he's like, well, what would you have me do? Put one of the junior officers in command? Sulu's not a fucking junior officer. He may be young, but by all accounts, he is third in command of the Enterprise after Kirk, Spock, and Scotty. Then Sulu is next. I think that's been clearly established. And there's been 2 episodes, I've been pointing this out as I've gone through, where Sulu was in fact in command, and these were episodes that Scotty didn't even appear in, so that's why. And I think in the first season they hadn't established who was third in command. Sometimes it was Sulu, sometimes it was Scotty, and then by the second season they firmly established it was Scotty who was second in command. But regardless, by this stage that means Sulu is third in command. So there's 2 episodes where Sulu took command of the Enterprise, Arena and Errand of Mercy. In both cases, these were battle situations. Sulu was commanding the Enterprise into battle. In Arena, he was attacking the Gorn, fighting off the Gorn who were attacking them. And in Errand of Mercy, he was fighting an entire Klingon fleet, and he was in command. So don't give me this bullshit about, what you want me to put a junior officer in command? No, Sulu is not a fucking junior officer. He has command. So that is a contrivance to get this Commodore in command of the Enterprise. And moreover, yes, the Commodore is inexperienced, but is he a total freaking fucking moron? Because that's what this episode portrays. Like, he shouldn't be a Commodore at all. He shouldn't have his job. He's like, take us into the neutral zone. And they're like, sir! Chekhov is like, the Romulans will attack us. And he's like, no, And apparently the only reason he's going into the neutral zone, by all counts, is that it's quicker. You don't know how to just fucking go around the goddamn neutral zone? I mean, if you don't know that going into neutral zone could mean certain death and you're taking unnecessary risk just to shave off a few hours, you have no business being in Starfleet, let alone a Commodore. So this is all 3 of these things are giant plot contrivances I simply do not buy. In other words, it's lazy writing because they wanted to create this threat of the week in this situation where the Romulans are attacking them, and Kirk has to show up and use his wits and do the Cobra Mine maneuver, which is, by the way, this is a second reference to the Cobra Mine, so it is a nice callback to the Cobra Mine maneuver, but still, total bullshit. And this whole storyline is total bullshit. And and as I mentioned, the whole relieving Kirk of command, which is actually what takes up the bulk of this episode. The bulk of the episode's about Kirk, like, forgetting shit and being like, didn't I say that already? And they're like, or like, I didn't say that. And it's like, sure, you said that. Which, again, is not how growing old works. And it's just a waste of time contrivance to give them something to do in the meantime before they get to this totally contrived threat of the week BS, lazy writing BS. And then there's the old flame, which is just a repeat rehash. It's just thrown in there for no reason. And again, it's kind of to take up the runtime of the episode. What else can they do about it going old? Let's say that Kirk used to be in love with this woman who's attracted to older men and left him from an older man who then passed away. And so now she's super attracted to him because he's growing old. And by the way, at the end of the episode, they're making googly eyes at each other, implying they're going to do something more, but then we never see her again because Kirk is a bimbo. Again, I completely reject this. There seems to be a lot of modern videos and notions that Kirk is not a womanizer. He most certainly fucking is. He definitely is, 1,000%. He's a sleazy motherfucker. And there is no denying this. You're just simply wrong if you say otherwise. But anyway. And then Chekhov they find the big reveal is that Chekhov didn't get the disease because he was scared. Well, again, that's another contrivance because he's a trained Starfleet officer. He just walks into a house, he sees a dead body, and he starts freaking out. It's like, ah! Again, why the hell is he in Starfleet if he can't even see a freaking dead body without freaking the fuck out and screaming? I'm sorry, Mr. Chekhov. To be fair, at least they have the man do it and then not play into the, screechy woman cliche, but still, either way, regardless, he shouldn't be in Starfleet. Whoever freaks out that much is simple. It's not like it popped out of nowhere or like surprised him. It was just sitting right there, and he walked in and saw a dead body and scared. Anyway, you might think I'm being too harsh or whatever, but I don't know. I think if you're in Starfleet, you should at least maybe be a little scared or freaked out. See, I couldn't imagine anyone in any modern Star Trek show, not even just talking about Discovery, Strange New Worlds, but also like TNG, Voyager, like freaking out and screaming just because they walk into a room with dead body. Anyone in Starfleet, that is. But anywho, I mean, he's really freaked out. I mean, some people might go, like, have a shock, but he was like screaming. I'm like, you shouldn't be in Starfleet. No, but anyway. And yeah, I don't know what's actually good about this episode. Maybe the concept is somewhat interesting. It was kind of suspenseful. And it was kind of cool when Kirk played his, gambit on the Romulans, but there were just so much contrivances in order to get there. Alright, so anyway, now's the time in the video where I thank my patrons for supporting me. It is, of course, very much appreciated. Patrons, we have Kyrie091, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky Medijester, Joel Lavals, Brian A., Alessandro Megalacio, Norman Buckwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, Allison Fordyce, and Brandon Neal Howells. Thank you all so very much for your support, of course, as always. Very much appreciated. So, we have a few patron comments for this episode. First one is from Ricky. Again, this is a mediocrity of Season 2. Another forgetful throwaway episode that was boring. The concept of the crew aging quick was an interesting concept, but here it dragged and was painfully slow. There's not much to say about this episode, but that is boring. The one thing that stuck out in my mind was, why the hell wasn't Sulu in command? If Kirk, Spock, and Scotty were incapable, why not Sulu? I mean, we saw him in Errand of Mercy, in Arena taking command. Not this random guy just so to have stakes. So a bad episode, not one of the worst or even terrible. So my rating is a 4 out of 10. So next comment is from Maddie Jester. I'm not a big fan of this episode, although it's not horrendous. The whole aging problem is solved in record time right at the end of the episode to save the day. Is a bit of an anticlimactic. This isn't the evil Admiral Commodore trope, he's just dumb. I never captained a starship, but even I know flying straight into Romulan neutral zone is a bloody stupid thing to do. 5 out of 10. Now, I completely agree with you, Maddie. He's not an evil admiral. He's just a stupid. This is the dumb admiral trope, or Commodore, what have you. Anyway, final comment is from Brandon Neal Howells. The deadly, in parentheses, dull years. Sorry, but this isn't how aging works. I observed this in my parents who both lived until their mid-80s. This episode is an excuse for William Shatner to act like an aging Marlon Brando and McCoy's accent to get progressively more southern. There are too many characters in this episode. Why does Janet Wallace even appear? She's yet another of Kirk's old lovers, and everyone knows Kirk has a string of exes because he's married to his job. Commodore Clueless is the only person high enough in rank to take command, and then he orders the ship straight into the neutral zone? Hand over command to Sulu and go back to Starfleet Academy, you dickhead. It's a really boring trope in Star Trek that the adversarial entity can be overcome by strong emotion, hate, laughter, and in this case, terror. big yawn. I do like Kirk using the Cobra Mite maneuver on the unseen Romulans, though. Bad makeup and bad wigs abound. This episode might be less boring if they cut 10-15 minutes out of it, but I doubt it. 3 code 2s out of 10 from me. I'm not sure if I get the code 2. Oh, code 2 was that's right, that was the frequency that the Romulans hacked into, and Kirk forgot it, but then at the end of the episode he used it to send that message. That's right. Anyway, and yeah, yes, a lot of other people pointing out that Sulu should have been command. Absolutely. And I didn't actually consider that whenever there's a disease, strong emotions can defeat it, like hate, laughter, or terror, as in this case. Yeah, it was usually laughter, though. Like, I'm thinking of Wolf in the Fold, where they made everyone drunk so they wouldn't get scared. Or later in, God, what's the other one? The Tholian Web, where they made everyone drunk there to like dull the pain or something. I don't know. But it's always like a strong emotion that can overcome it. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So anyway, my rating for the Deadly Years out of 10, I'm going to give this a 2. Extremely poor. When I was thinking about this, when I started recording this video, I was prepared to give it a 3, but the more I talk about it, the more I realize, like, there's very little redeeming qualities about this episode. This episode is just a mess. It's the high concept is interesting, which is why I used to like this, or at least tell myself I liked it. But they don't do anything with it. They just throw in a lot of cliches. The old lover cliche, the dumb commoner cliche. They have so many contrivances. In fact, what I was thinking about when watching this video is one of these days I want to throw in and make a video where I do my top 10 most contrived episodes of Star Trek, and I already mentioned the Bride of Chaotica from Voyager, Bada Bing Bada Bang from DS9. I think there's another one I brought up recently, but I can't think of it at the moment. But this is another one, Deadly Years. This is up there. This would definitely be in the contention for top 5, maybe even, top 5 most contrived episodes of all the Star Trek, because there's so many contrivances in this episode just to get to that stupid ending. Anyway, so yeah, 2. Definitely 2, so this would probably make my top 20 worse, and I think it deserves to, honestly. So that is it for my review of The Deadly Years. So coming up on my channel, let's see what's going. Let's see if I can find the schedule. The Deadly Years. So, episode 3 of Picard will be on Thursday, which is funny because as I'm recording this video, first episode of Picard comes out tomorrow, so I'm still a bit anxious about how that's going to go, but we'll see. And then Saturday will be my review for iMud, and then followed by the following week on Monday, I shall be back here with the Trouble with Tribbles review. So that's what's coming up on Enchantment of Eternity, so be sure to keep an eye out for all of that, and as I cover many other stuff on my video, many other Star Trek things, and I'll be covering Picard Weekly and many other shows as well, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.